Hello and welcome to another weekly update. I hope you're doing well. A couple of new things to talk about this week. Two of the three things we're going to talk about today have nothing to do with Copilot, which is kind of interesting and is a good thing, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. But first of all, let's talk first about adaptive cards. Now, adaptive cards have been around for a really long time, and I think they're actually kind of a bit underrated, and I think they're a really important backbone to a lot of things. I think they've powered a lot of some of the bot stuff that's come along. And I think actually Microsoft are going to be really pleased that they have that stuff in play now for what's coming through the rest of this year with things like Copilot, agentic behavior, and as we kind of morph from what Copilot is in terms of how it gives us information, as that becomes richer and richer, I think, again, just my guess, I don't know this, I think Microsoft are going to lean into adaptive cards more and more as a really good way of displaying information. As part of that, there's a whole kind of new documentation hub, a whole revamping of the documentation for adaptive cards. If you've done anything with adaptive cards, you'll probably be aware of adaptivecards.io, which has been around for a long time. It's got a really good schema designer in it. It's got a really good usable kind of, you can mock up adaptive cards, you can see what works, you can try them out in different versions and across different device emulations and things like that. But there's lots of new capabilities coming to adaptive cards and lots of different ways of using adaptive cards to surface kind of really important information to users. And that's some of the stuff I think we're going to see Copilot take advantage of, and also app developers take advantage of, as well as they build out their Copilot agents, as they build out things like the kind of standalone custom engine agents as well. So let's go through this blog post. So new documentation hub. So there's a new location to go to, a new website address of adaptivecards.microsoft.com. That's the new place to go. And that's got in it a lovely landing page, very pretty, but it's got clear places to go for designing, for reference, and for creation. And then a whole bunch of best practices, a whole bunch of examples, kind of how-tos, how not-tos, to really get you going, building nice adaptive card kind of experiences, I suppose. All of them have like built-in JSON as well, which is really nice. So this is a really nice resource, I think. It looks as though they've taken the adaptive card designer from adaptivecards.io and brought it into this documentation as well. So if you go to adaptivecards.microsoft.com/designer, that's where you'll find it, along with release history. So what do I think is happening here? I think a couple of things are happening here. The first is investment in documentation, because Microsoft see the value of adaptive cards, and that's one really good thing. We're all going to benefit from the investment in documentation here, because I think adaptive cards are going to be an important part of our future in how we represent this information to people. I think that honestly, the second thing that's going on here is probably a consolidation of domain names. So we had adaptivecards.io. Looking at what's in adaptivecards.io and what's in this new documentation, there's a lot of crossover. I wouldn't be that surprised to see adaptivecards.io shut down and be replaced with all the functionality that's in here at adaptivecards.microsoft.com. I don't think they've said that anywhere. I haven't seen it anywhere. It's not the case. You can go to adaptivecards.io, and that still works. So that hasn't happened. It's just that kind of makes sense. The other thing is that there's quite a lot of stuff updated in adaptive cards recently. Quite a lot has changed. And what's happened, I think, probably as part of this whole agentic behavior, Copilot, and adaptive cards being a good surface to show more than just text data, because this is the problem where we are right now. With Copilot chat, it's great, but it's all very text-based. As we move into that next stage of what that looks like, we're going to want to represent much more richly, so things like graphs and charts and images and things like that. Adaptive cards is the perfect schema to do that. It's the perfect canvas to do that. And so I think that's the reason behind some of these updates. So for instance, charting. So really rich charting capabilities being built into adaptive cards now. Rating displays, some styling options, a nice carousel, some badges, code editors. So lots going on here. So yeah, under their title of See Beyond the Text, Absolutely worth having a look at, how they're using adaptive cards in a kind of chatbot experience to really present a much richer view of the data. And then right at the bottom is your getting started kind of jumping off point. Go to the new website, navigate through the topics, check out the samples. So really nice wrapper for documentation. It's good to see that it's been kind of revamped and consolidated and improved and relaunched. It's going to be an important thing in 2025, I think. Okay, next thing, Copilot agents in Teams group chats are a thing. They're in the roadmap and they are now officially launched, which means they should be everywhere. They've been through that rollout phase and it should be everywhere. So it should be the case that if you're doing group chats in Microsoft Teams, you ought to be able to find and add Copilot agents. This got updated a couple of days ago. The rollout start was in February, but it's just been updated to be launched. So feels like it's kind of gone out everywhere. So yeah, this is something you should be able to see in your tenant now. So group chats should now have Copilot agents. So again, this is good. It's good. It's good consolidation for users as we try and help users understand what Copilot agents are and where they can be helpful and remind them to use them at the right place at the right time. Some of that is down to us training users and users onboarding this idea that agents exist and remembering to use them. Some of it is down to Copilot orchestration, invoking agents at the right time, and some of it is down to the UI supporting this. And the more consistency and uniformity the UI can have, the better. So I think this is good because users don't know the difference between group chats and single chats and meeting chats and channel chats and all the chats. They just see chat. And so they should have that Copilot experience the same everywhere. So stuff like this, I think, is good because it consolidates and makes for a kind of a universal experience. All right, and then finally, something to leave you with if you were fed up with all the Copilot stuff and you just want to look at something completely different, don't forget that Satya Nadella is still all about quantum computing. That is a thing Microsoft are working on. They haven't forgotten about it. I know it's gone a bit quiet because of the whole Copilot AI thing, but actually that team are still very much moving forward and they have unveiled Majorana 1, which I know absolutely nothing about. However, there is a post on LinkedIn from Satya, which was important enough to be kind of reposted on the official corporate blog for Microsoft. And this is their first quantum processing unit built on a topological core. Here's a picture of it. So I think this is going to be one of these things we look back on and say, that's when that started. In the same way with Copilot, you can look back and see the social media post, the blog post that kind of kicked off Microsoft's investment in AI. And at the time, we didn't really know what it was and what it meant because you can't see into the future. I feel like this might be one of those things for quantum computing. I think it makes the whole idea of quantum computing more real, more operational, and more possible. So I don't know. We're going to see if this is really a thing. This is probably reference architecture. It's I don't know if Microsoft are going to be actually making these chips and putting them in their data centers, maybe, but it might also be reference architecture for partners. So this is going to be really interesting to see what they do with it and what it actually means, but we won't find out really very much about that until probably towards the end of the year, or if this year at all. So definitely one to keep an eye on, but yeah, and worth digging into if you're really into quantum computing and that's your world. You probably already know about this. If you're interested in it, go read up on it because I think it is a bit of a breakthrough. But again, in terms of what it means to us on the ground, it's going to be probably a year, maybe the back end of this year before we see any real kind of output from this. All right, I think that's everything I wanted to tell you about today. Have a fantastic week. I am going to try and get the last part of the Clothes Pilot blogs out, and the videos are all recorded. They just need editing, so they're going to come out as well over the course of the next few weeks. Have a great time, whatever it is you're doing. Speak to you next time.